What's in a number, you ask? On any given night in Australia, there are over 105,000 people homeless. Enough to fill Suncorp Stadium twice. 17,000 of those will be children under 12. Another 11,000 will be young people aged between 12 and 18. Sometimes it's not until we stop and look outside that we see a number that really stands out for all the wrong reasons. I'm Dean Merlo from Merlo Coffee, and 2013 will be my 4th year at the CEO Sleepout. Over the past few years, Merlo Coffee has been fortunate enough to donate close to $100,000 through the kind and often overwhelming support of the local community. This year, however, I wanted to go one step further and see just how these funds had helped Vinnie's continue their services at the ground level. The team at the Vinnie's State Office had organised some time for me to visit a few of the services around South East Queensland. They were able to arrange some time for me to meet with some of the staff and volunteers who dedicate their time to helping others, as well as those who are now rebuilding their lives with the help of Vinnie's. The first stop was a service called Hope House in Brisbane. I learned when I arrived that this was a very unique opportunity, as men were not usually permitted. I realised this visit needed to be approached with great sensitivity, as I learned that many of the women who live here were still rebuilding their lives, often due to domestic violence.
Hope House is a safe and secure environment for women and children to live in. It gives them a little bit of time to work on their strengths, abilities and needs. All the tenants need to set their own goals. It's got characteristics of strength-based approach.
To be honest, when I walked through the door, I actually thought, what more I could do. These are real people, and you can't come here and not take that in and be changed by that. And I've met a couple of the women, and each one has a story, and some of those stories are not great.
It started when I just had my baby, and I was in a hospital, and I was supposed to go back to my own place, and my landlord didn't want me to stay there because I didn't have a job and I couldn't work at the time. I think that my landlord worried about if I couldn't pay the rent. If I couldn't look after myself, I think I probably will find somebody to take my baby, because if I cannot find a place to live, and it's not good for her to stay with me. I feel safe here, and personally I don't think I'm ready to live yet. I cannot live here forever.
The women allow me into their lives, even though they've been abused or traumatised, which is quite a privilege for me.
There's only 11 rooms, in one residence. It's not like 200 rooms, there's 11. And I'm thinking, if they're full, where do you go? And when you throw a small child into the mix, it certainly escalates in terms of how much trouble you can be in. We've all got people, in our family that are in trouble at some stage, and you like to think that there's an option for them out there. And I think the word safe keeps coming up, and I think that's a key word. Everyone wants to feel safe in life, and I think Hope House can do that for a lot of women.
After a somewhat confronting visit to Hope House, my next stop was the Inala Family Support Centre. In an area with a long history of welfare, I was welcomed by an amazing team of volunteers and staff who are working together on a local level to combat many of the issues that lead to homelessness.
Well, what happened was Inala couldn't deal with all the home visits that were being asked for. Yep. So other conferences came in and helped Inala, and then that still realised it was going to be too much. So they decided to build the Inala Family Support Centre. Last year in the financial year, we helped over 7,000 people. Sometimes it can be just food that they ask for, and it's a pretty quick visit, might be 20 minutes after they've just had their little chat, but sometimes it could be definitely over an hour to 2 hours that they're sitting in the room.
And a lot of our families here are third generation welfare in Inala, so that's one of the worst aspects of that, and a lot of the parents don't see the value of education and don't, so it's good to try and instill in the parents or the kids when they come that this is very, very important to lift them from where they are.
If anyone comes in for education, that is one of our highest points because we believe that it's the way out of poverty. Challenges for the volunteers probably is getting to the very bottom of the problem, because a lot of the people might just come in and say they need food, and really they need a lot more.
I was 17 when I was doing men's speed skating and fell over and the skates hit the middle of my back. Months later I was in the kitchen, I collapsed and they had to take 2 of my discs out of my spine. If it wasn't for these guys, we wouldn't have had a Christmas last year. They helped us out big time. They're not just here to help out financially as in food, but they're here for emotional support, okay, because they don't judge you. I think it's a lesson for everybody out there. Well, I'm a great believer in karma. I believe what goes around comes around. I believe if someone's gonna, take the shit off the back, so to speak, I'm gonna do the same thing. We're not all getting $5,000-6,000 a week, where you don't have to worry about where the milk or the bread's coming from, or school fees. You don't have to worry about that. I do, and I'm just not one. I'm one of many millions.
I think the hardest thing in life is to ask a favour. I mean, I have trouble with that, and I'm sure that lots of those CEOs up there don't like asking people for favours. But when you've got hungry kids at home and you've got no other options, you've got to ask for help. And isn't it nice to think that you can go somewhere and ask for help and not be judged, and speak to someone who's warm and will care,
I found out later that quite often, when Pablo has some extra money or food in the house, he actually donates it back to the centre. Here's a guy with very little material wealth, yet so rich with kindness and love for his kids that he wanted to set that kind of example for them. My last visit was to a service called Families Back on Track, located at the Gold Coast. I was really interested to see this relatively new and modern facility and hear about the types of support that they offer families to get back on their feet.
So Families Back on Track is for single parent families with children. There's 27 units, 2 of those are disability units, so they're single story units. So they can come to us and stay for anywhere from 3 months to 12 months. So during that time, Desley and I will work with them to overcome the barriers that have caused their homelessness. A lot of them come from situations of domestic violence or drug and alcohol abuse, significant debt. The primary objective would be to assist families to overcome their difficulties and the issues that they're currently going through, the hardships that they face, showing them that there is another way, there is another life that they can live, teaching them better coping strategies and enabling them, I guess, to be independent and contributing members of society.
When I first come here 6 months ago, I left a domestic violence relationship. I was sleeping in a car for 3 weeks with my 11-year-old daughter and 2-year-old son. I had no confidence and no self-esteem when I first come here, and I'm learning all that now. We all deserve to be happy in a safe place. So if everyone had the opportunity that I have living here, it does make a difference. It's a safe place here, first time, don't have to look over my shoulder. Kids are happy, I'm happy. Coming together as a family, as a family should be. I'll never go back to that life.
I think also Families Back on Track, encompasses, the basic premise behind Vinnie's, which is to give people a hand up and not a hand out. And I think that's important. It really is. And I think everyone here understands that they're really only here for a maximum 12 months, and then they have to go out into the real world, if you like. But they're prepared for that. The team here teaches them how to cope with that, and there's a training and a transition into that world. They help them find alternative accommodation that's affordable for them, and they help them with looking for a job and the kids in school, and they provide them with the tools necessary for them to cope in life after families back on track. I think some of the CEOs out there can understand mentoring. I mean, they probably mentor a lot of the people in their own company, and there may be relatives that they mentor because in their family circle they're seen as very successful. And I think that Michelle and Desley are doing exactly the same thing. They don't realise it, but they're really mentoring these women and dads to be better parents.
As business people, we're often focused on seeing a return on our investment. Quite simply, without the continued support of the business community, places like Hope House, the Inala Family Support Centre and Families Back on Track cease to exist. Having had the great pleasure of visiting these facilities that our donations help to support, I realised that this one night in June is actually changing people's lives, and our investment is in the future. What's in a number, you ask? I met only 3 of the 300,000 Queenslanders that Vinnie's assisted last year. This is why the CEO Sleepout remains such an important date on the calendar, and why we as a community need to continue to support Vinnie's.